The crisis on the Supreme Court today has multiple dimensions to it. It's not just the ethical crisis, which the whole country is talking about. It's the doctrinal and the political crises as well. These are interlocked and they're mutually reinforcing, and it all adds up to one profound crisis of constitutional legitimacy in the country. Now Donald Trump is bragging all over America that, quote, after 50 years of failure with nobody even coming close, I was able to kill Roe versus Wade, much to the shock of everyone. He and Mitch McConnell packed and stacked and gerrymandered the court. And now this right-wing corporate court, carefully designed to destroy Roe versus Wade and to fuse right-wing religion with untrammeled corporate power, has been demolishing women's abortion and contraceptive rights, civil rights law, voting rights law, civil liberties, environmental law, workers' rights, and consumer rights, enshrining government power over people whenever they conflict and corporate power over government whenever they conflict. The court has been behaving like a rabid partisan actor.
House Oversight Committee progressives decided to take matters into their own hands and do what the Republican colleagues and fellow Democrats wouldn't do under their own volition, calling out the real power brokers in our country.
Constitutional doctrine has been reduced in this court to a series of blatantly unjust and thoroughly ideological decisions like these: upholding white political supremacy, racial inequality, corporate power, and right-wing control over our democratic institutions. All of the preening lectures about textualism and originalism today are nothing but a fraud on the public. The right-wing justices, 5 of them named to the court by Bush and Trump, the 2 presidents elected in this century to the presidency after losing the popular vote, now act entirely like the judicial arm of the Republican Party, which represents a small minority of the American people. It's no coincidence that Justice Thomas takes millions of dollars from his right-wing corporate sugar daddies. After all, if you can decide presidential elections with 5-4 votes in Bush versus Gore, if you can pack, stack, and gerrymander not just Congress, but the Supreme Court itself by denying the other party even a hearing, why can't you have some friend of the court, some amicus curiae, fly you to Bali for vacation, or pay for your family member's private school tuition, or buy you a recreational vehicle, or send you on a lavish, all-expense-paid vacation? Why the hell not? And yet, with their lopsided ideological jurisprudence assaulting the rights of the people, and with their obscene ethical transgressions, they've completely forfeited their right to be called justice. And unless I forget to do it, from now on, they're just Judge Alito and Judge Thomas to me, at best.
Jamie Raskin was on fire during this rant and did a masterful job of linking the laughably corrupt Supreme Court to the dark forces shaping our entire political system, right? Here's the thing. Money in politics is inherently undemocratic because it shifts the power away from the voters and into the hands of the highest bidder. Do I need to cite examples? We're talking about Citizens United, lobbying, super PACs, corporate subsidies, campaign donations, or how about a kickback? If you pass this legislation, right, that's going to help our business, or help my brand, yeah, I'll slide you some money on the table. And the other thing that people need to recognize is that having money in politics is simply a feature of capitalism. It's not a bug. And the corruption that we have been witnessing is the logical end of capitalism. So all of this shouldn't be as surprising as it's coming off to be.
I took a look at the 5-4 decisions in which the conservative majority was unified but couldn't attract one of the other votes. And there were 60-some decisions in which that was the count, and an issue obviously relevant to a Republican special interest was involved. They won every single time. It is a pattern that any good lawyer would take into court to prove bias, and the other side would probably settle. So the pattern is very, very telling.
It's also very telling that Senator Whitehouse, as well as activists, nonprofits, think tanks, other members of Congress, etc., have been ringing the alarm on this for so long, yet no one has taken the issue as seriously as it deserved to be until it was far too late.
Dark money is the rot in our democracy right now. It is controlled by definition by billionaires and wealthy special interests who have the ability to spend millions and millions of dollars in politics, the motive to spend millions and millions of dollars in politics, and the desire to obscure from the public who they are when they spend it, so they can't be held accountable for their political intervention. It's a concerted effort. It's a set of sort of dark money chords that are presenting an argument in harmony to the justices. And then if there's one consistency with the right-wing justices, it's their alignment with the direction provided by those dark money front groups. This is the court that dark money built. And it built it through contributions to the Republican Party. It built it through front groups that were stood up, that don't reveal who their real funding is, but that then go out and lobby for issues, file amicus briefs for issues, in many cases litigate cases as the real party in interest.
There are so many steps that people are taking to do shady things in order to get what they want and influence politicians or Supreme Court justices or anybody in politics, right? There's so many special interest groups, and it's just become commonplace. And I think the most troubling part is how easy it is for people to be bought, right, by the individuals with the dark money, these billionaires who will want to wield their power and make sure they get their money into the hands of the right people who are going to give them what they want. And that's very troubling. I think the least surprising part, I should say, is that, yeah, people will sell out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the person giving the money is a terrible person or they're going to, hurt the country in some way, some shape or form. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. There are a lot of people who sell out in the name of money.
Would you agree with me that there is some form of ethics that is in place for our lower courts that somehow is absent from our high court?
That is correct.
There are people that have never been anywhere near a law school that are saying even a blind man can see. There's an obvious conflict. But what is the recourse on the Supreme Court? Is there a recourse on the Supreme Court when a justice decides that they are not going to recuse themselves from what seems to be a very obvious conflict?
At the moment, there is not.
Okay. So I agree that there may be some sort of a two-tier justice system that is playing out in our country. But it seems like the two-tier justice system is inuring to the benefit of the highest court in the land, from what I can ascertain.
If a justice violates one of their adopted ethics rules, who investigates that violation?
There is no provision in the ethics code that provides for any investigation of the justices. They leave it up to themselves to self-police.
So what are the consequences then of a violation, and who would enforce those consequences?
Congresswoman, the Supreme Court has made clear that they don't think that they can be held accountable either by Congress or by the Judicial Conference, which does regulate and discipline the conduct of lower court judges. So there's nobody to hold them accountable at all.
What Justice Alito and Justice Thomas have done in being corrupt really disgusts me, because they have the audacity to think they're going to get away with it. And in some cases, they are, because they're still on the bench. And the other part is how they really don't care, because they're taking all these undisclosed luxury vacations with billionaires, right, who are donating to the Republican Party with lots of money. And that doesn't bother you, you accepting all these gifts. You can't see how wrong that is, because it takes away the trust from the American people that, you can't do your job in an honest manner. Because these billionaires are giving you all these things that, of course, are going to make you lean in another direction. And then you got Justice Alito, having the flag upside down outside the residence, after January 6th as a apparent sign of support for Donald Trump. for the insurrection. Like, it's really irritating, okay? The other part is, how do we quell it, right? Well, we need to have a code of ethics. We need to have an ethics code to make sure we don't have any of this on our Supreme Court. Because otherwise, these people thinking that they can use their money to affect how these Supreme Court justices rule in various cases, it's just going to continue. And they're going to feel more empowered. So you need a really airtight code of ethics that is going to shut all of this down.